We live.
What's good? Yes.
I got my guy. We back again. I got my guy, Chris Zapata. We got a lot to talk about. We gon' we don't want to try to keep you too long, man, but we got a lot to talk about today because Chris and I were in a movie. Fantasy A Gets a Mattress, and that movie is getting a lot of publicity and exposure right now.
Yeah.
Winning some accolades. I know it won Best Cinematography in the Berlin Film Festival. It won Best Film Narrative for the Black Film Festival, Seattle Black Film Festival at Langston Hughes. It's been doing some things, man. It's someone's breaking into Chris's house. We get to see Chris's boxers. Look like he got some MF Doom boxers. He got some. What are you doing for our production? This guy.
Well,
he's over here Hollywooding us, man. Okay, man. But yeah, man, we was in a movie. I played like an antagonist in the movie. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Chris plays the very the arch nemesis landlord or group home manager and whatnot. So it's good, man. Like we always do in the beginning. Please, donate to speak. Talk, saying you can always donate to Cash App at $ Logic on Man, Venmo at Logic on Man. But anyways, we're gonna get into today's topic and stuff like that. And I really wanted to you go ahead. We can go ahead and we can talk about like just the movie, man. Let's talk about Fantasy A Gets a Mattress. It's a story about an autistic Black male who gets pretty much kicked out of his group home. A lot of it is based on real life events, but it's just satire. Fantasy A is a real person. His name is Alex in real life. And he did get kicked out of his group home, not for the reasons that the movie says, but he was then, looking for a place to stay, but in the movie they say it's, Fantasy A Gets a Mattress and whatnot. So you talk about a little bit of how you got selected to be in a movie and whatnot.
Let's see. Well, when did they find me? They found me 4 years ago when I was doing stand up in my open mic over in Cafe Red. It was probably about 4 or 5 years ago now, because when you think about the time it actually has taken over the years during the pandemic. I think, right? Did you shoot during the pandemic too? Yeah. So
yeah.
And so Noah through Acacia, I think the Porters, Acacia and her husband, and they saw me do stand up, and then they told me about the role, and then I met with Fantasy A to go over my first part of the role. I had no idea, I didn't know the scope of it really. I didn't, it was just like my part, and then over the last couple of years, we filmed in different locations, and I felt like my part expanded, and they would add and take away. And so, I mean, I'd heard about part one, but I've never seen it. Have you seen?
Oh yeah, I was in.
You did part one too? What?
Yeah, I was in the original. So Fantasy A Gets a Mattress is a sequel. And the first one was called Fantasy A Gets Jacked, and he gets jacked by me. It's the same character. It's like the same universe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like the Fantasy A universe that they created.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's like a comic book universe. And Ramon is the character I play. And his buddy Xander, they jack Fantasy A in the first one, and then in the second one, he's opening up and kind of like a group home. He's opening up a place where you could stay, but then he decides to turn it into a dojo. It's just a zany, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so
you had some moves. Those were some serious. You had to train for the move. You had to train.
I did. I took
like,
all of 5.
I need to do it over.
I took all of 5 minutes to train for the moves I did in that movie and whatnot. So, but
what should we call it? We'll call it a remojo.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really interested to see, where the film goes and things of that nature. They found out about me the same kind of similar the same way. I was doing some stand up, you know what I'm saying, and that kind of goes into our topic we're gonna talk about today. It's like how comedy can help and heal and build community, because me doing comedy has opened up a lot of doors, and I don't even do it as serious. It's like someone like you. I admire you. You're out there grinding, getting stage time, getting mic time. I'll jump in there a little bit. It's
You
kind
were
of like,
though. There was a time that you were though. I remember you used to have, because you used to wear the suits all the time. Remember?
yeah. I mean, I do a little hopscotch. I jump in, jump out, because there's so much, and we're gonna talk about that too. There's so much intersection that being a comedian and a hip hop artist or MC or a rapper that shares with being a stand-up comedian. So I in the beginning, I always started off as a stand-up comedian and a rapper though. I tried out for BET Comedy View. I mean, I've tried out for at least one other network comedy series. I've been there. I've been on the lawn chair, you know what I'm saying? For 3 to 4 hours, you know what I'm saying, waiting in line to audition for a spot in downtown Seattle. Yeah, I've been there, man. And not hearing your name get called. That's why I created the Grill Party Experience, is because I was tired of not getting picked up by other things. You know what I'm saying? Keep auditioning for things.
But I mean, I think it's beautiful though. That I think what emerged from it, the Grill Party Experience. I think it was something that it was almost like purpose, really, right? When you think about it, because I mean, not almost, it was, right? I mean,
yeah.
Because I mean, it's such an amazing thing that came out of that evolved. I feel like what you evolved into is like,
yeah. I mean, I appreciate the recognition, man. It's just like sometimes you got to create your own purpose. You know what I'm saying, in life.
Most of the time, I feel like that's
exactly.
I think people. We live in a world where it's too easy. Like you got TikTok, people doing.
Yeah.
I know no one's making up their stuff, and it's like, okay. I mean, that's great, but it's like, I think what we segueing into the hip hop here in a little bit, I feel like the beauty about hip hop, and shout out for the 50 years, was that we didn't have that. It was imagination. You know what I mean? All of it was creativity. We walk around with like big symbols, on our necklace. Remember? I mean,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? And so it was like we didn't, care either. I mean, you could wear, polka dots. You know what I mean? We was really, and the culture. In the beginning too, I remember the culture. We were so shut out. Oh, don't do that hibbida bop, that bibbida bop stuff. You know what I mean? It was, but I think that's where the genius is in the creativity, because for a minute they don't like it, but then they're like intrigued about it, and I think that's
And when we talk about the 50 years of hip hop, when we really start to reflect on it and dig deep, there is a strong element of comedy in there. Because I remember from like Rapper's Delight, and this is going into our topic today, how can comedy help heal and build community? You really can't talk about hip hop without talking about comedy. And we've gotten to the point you can't really talk about comedy without talking about hip hop. Every time you turn on some kind of comedy, right? Especially when we're talking about, you feel me, like stand-up comedian, when you go to a stand-up joint, especially if it's black folks, let's just keep it a buck. We're talking about black folks.
Right.
You go to even the Parlor, when rest in peace, the Parlor in Bellevue, you know what I'm saying?
Or the comedy shop with Anthony Tibbs. Exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to Anthony Tibbs. He's Voter of the Year. He's still
right.
He's still doing stuff with Africa Town, by the way. He brought Tyler Quality out there, and he did the Soul on the Pier. Shout out to Anthony Tibbs.
He's always been a part of the community.
Stand-up comedian, venue. They got a DJ.
Yeah.
And the DJ spinning hip hop. And if you go back and you start listening to a lot of the older hip hop, I mean, even nowadays, but more so the older hip hop, like Rapper's Delight, there was a lot of comedy in that song. You know what I'm saying? Talking about how the food tasted when you went over your friend's house, when you ever go to a friend's house and the food just ain't that good. You know what I'm saying? The chicken tastes like wood. You know what I'm saying? So, and then when I really think about, and a lot of people are surprised when I say that, the person that really got me rapping that I looked up to was the Fresh Prince, and he infused so much comedy into his rhymes and his songs. I think I can beat Mike Tyson. Parents just don't understand. Nightmare on My Street.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And it got to the point where that's corny now. And I want to that was when hip hop was fun. You know what I'm saying? And when we talk about the 50 years of hip hop, it's like either hip hop is, you know what I'm saying, which I don't have a problem with because a lot of good music comes out of sex, drugs, and violence and getting money. There's a lot of good music that comes out of that. But I'm nowadays there seems to be a lack of songs that, you know, you like just having fun. You know what I'm saying? And you know, now it's like it's corny now. You know?
Yeah, you're right on that part because I feel like I don't know, it's like we've been, what's the word? I don't want to say tainted, but numbed to a degree. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, and then it's like creativity is not as, I hate to say it, we become really a culture that is almost controlled like by the industry in a sense, right? So
yeah, I definitely think it is.
you know what I mean?
When we talk about hip hop and we talk about stand up, like when I see a stand up comedian, I'll be like, that's an MC. You know, they're the microphone controller, they're the master of ceremonies.
Yeah.
Comedy, the biggest difference between comedy and being an MC and rocking a crowd is like most of the times, you know, saying a comedian doesn't have that support of music behind them.
Yeah.
You're just up there on an island all by yourself, and your jokes become the beat. They're the lyrics. They're everything. They're the backup dancer. Your jokes are everything. That's why I say that stand-up comedian, I tip my hat to people who go out there on a regular basis like you and Nate. Shout out to Bo. I mean, all the Ashley, all the local cats who are doing it. You know, I know I'm missing some people out there, but you know, you get the point I'm saying. Shout out to all the local comedians because y'all are going out there and y'all constantly have to make new material. You know what I'm saying? And if you tell, like, being a stand-up comedian is not like being an MC or a rapper. Like a rapper can get out there and say, oh man, I'm gonna get out there and do my hit song. Nowadays, comedy doesn't work. You know what I'm saying? If you get out there and you're telling the same joke for consecutive shows, people are like, hey man, he's telling the same jokes, man. She telling the same jokes. They telling the same joke. Back in the day, it was a little bit different. Because a lot of people don't realize or don't know. Richard Pryor would get on stage and people would request jokes. He'd be like, man, I already did that joke. But they would want Richard Pryor to tell the same joke over and over again. Like, tell Mudfoot, come on, man, tell the joke about Mudfoot. He'd be like, man, you know, I was reading in the book. He was like, man, I already did that joke, man. So when we talk about the intersection between hip hop and stand-up, I mean, what's the first things that come to mind? Like, what's some intersection that they share?
Here's the thing I think that's mutual with comedy and hip hop. One of my mentors, Alonzo Bowden, said this, and I think it's powerful. He said, it's the comic's job to create a funnier reality than the one we are living in. I think that's powerful because I feel like with hip hop too, there's a reality we're bringing in, right? Peace, love, you know, it's the, you know, having fun and all that, you know, the basics of hip hop. But I still think, you know, it's our job to create this experience. And everybody is coming in with their day, you know, whatever is going on in their life. And that's no joke. To get people that, you know, I could be coming in, I ain't gonna laugh.
Exactly.
And you know, I'm not even actually. That could be subconscious. It may not be something I'm doing on purpose, but I could be like, I'm just gonna watch. And that's gonna affect not knowing that my energy is gonna affect, you know, whoever's up on stage.
Let me ask you a question real quick. When we talk about the intersection between hip hop and stand up uh, comedy, what do you think about these MCs, rappers that are trying to make that transition, like Ti, from being a rapper to doing stand up? What do you think? I mean, because I know Nick Cannon. I actually seen Nick Cannon at the Parlor one night. He made that transition from rapper to stand up comedian. I want to say Will Smith has
He
done
tried
some.
it. I saw. He
Yeah, he's done
tried. Yeah.
some too. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's possible to tell jokes. I'll say that. Like,
He said it's
that's the
possible.
thing.
No
I
jokes.
say here because I know this is where it's at. I feel like I think as comedians we get up there. You have a lot of new cats that they found the formula of how to tell jokes.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't remember who said this though. But you could be a joke teller, but a comedian. I think you could be a comic and be a joke teller. You have a lot of comics, but comedian is a funny person. And I feel like you and I, we saw Eddie Murphy, we've seen, the people that we admire, and they're funny people. You look at them, they come out, or they come out and they have, or they're like Tracy Morgan, and they have that. They're funny people, but I think there are very few people that are actually have made the transition from comic to comedian. You know what I mean? I mean,
you mean comic to comedian? You mean rapper to comedian? You mean?
and that too, though, because then you have the MC, right?
You said comic
And
to comedian. You said it's very
and rapper, but I'm saying comic to comedian. I feel like, they
Oh,
say
I see. I see what you're
a
saying.
comic tells jokes, but a comedian is a funny person.
Yeah.
And I feel like they can tell jokes too, but they're also funny because their persona, everything about them is like. And I feel like when you start out, you're telling jokes and you get laughs, and you can mistake yourself for being a comedian until you hit a couple bad ones and realize, okay, I need to, carve. That's why I feel like the process is so extensive, because you're working it out. But you got a lot of comics that tell jokes, and they're good at it. Like the first year, you go take a class. A lot of people do. They get the formula. You can tell jokes, and you can tell jokes well, but it doesn't mean you're a comedian yet. You're not a funny person. I know people that are like, "Wow, you're terrible. You can tell jokes," and even in telling jokes, they're not that interesting.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's not a negative. It's just
I say that a lot, man. Like I say that a lot about like Kevin Hart. Like I really appreciate the work. I like Kevin Hart. A lot of people, oh, he's not as funny. And I always say this about Kevin Hart. I say Kevin Hart is funnier than his jokes. And then people be like, yeah, that is true. Like he walks into a room, he'll make a facial expression, do some kind of mannerism. That shit, he won't even say anything. Kevin Hart is he's just funny. Maybe it's because he's so little. You know what I'm saying? Maybe
Kevin has big charm. I think you know what I mean. I think he's like you said, he's like the Fresh Prince of comedy. To me, I mean, when you think about it, right? He's so big in charm and like presence. I mean, you can tell a joke and it's like, but you'll be so into his charm and the way he's telling you it, you'll be like, okay, that was okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like him though. I think he's good, but he's not one of my tops. But he's definitely, I think he's good. I would never like say he's not funny.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have their. I mean, I think comedy's like wine. You have different flavors. I don't think some people just may not be your flavor. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's like hip hop though too. I mean,
I think a lot of times with these rappers who want to be comedians, I feel like they don't take a step back, and because there's a lot of stuff that, well, not a lot of stuff. There's been a few occasions that people have complained about Ti. And I know that Ti has come into the circle of stand-up comedy and comedians, and then like like kind of like heckling other comedians when they're doing jokes about him. Like I remember this one sister was on stage and she was talking to jokes about him, and he wanted to like try to shut it down. I'm like, hold on, time out, bro. She got the mic. You don't do that. And I think
Right.
he made some kind of an advancement to get the mic from her or something like that and try to take over. Like, bro, this is not a rap battle. You know what I'm saying? And regardless of what you see on Wild 'N Out, even that has some kind of structure and that's scripted. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't do that.
Well, very
You know?
scripted. I think, yeah, it's very scripted. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very scripted. And my thing is when you're doing comedy, it's like you got to have that thick skin. You got to be able to like sit back and be like, all right, I'm gonna go ahead and take this. But it's like I feel like if someone were to come up to T.I. and be like, well, we're gonna have Kevin Hart open up for you, and then T.I. be like, and do what? Oh,
Right.
you're gonna be doing some comedy? Oh yeah, bet. Let's no. Kevin Hart's gonna be rapping. I think T.I. would be like, I don't know about that, man. You know
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just like,
Well, I mean, and I've seen Ti live, at the club. And again, I go back to, I think I stand on what I say as far as like I feel like he knows how to tell jokes, and he's Ti. You know what I mean? He is who he is. But I feel like it's a solid like 20, 25 minutes.
mm-hmm.
It's what you expect in like 3 years or 4 years that he's been doing it. So
Yeah. What I've understand about like the intersection between hip hop and stand up is that hip hop either way you go, but I went from hip hop. I think I was more of a rapper and a poet before I was a comedian, and then people
yeah.
just like, you're funny. You know what I'm saying? I grew up the only child, so I had a few imaginary friends. Off jump, that's just funny to me. Like I was like, what I'm saying, talking to people who weren't there.
Right.
As a little kid. And what you learn to do, because I grew up the only child for 17 years, is you learn to get comfortable in your story. And I think that is where comedy, the roots of really, really good comedy is rooted in storytelling. That's why Richard Pryor was so powerful, you know what I'm saying? Because his stories that he told. And I think that when you're making that transition from like a rapper to a comedian, if that's what you want to do, you have to be like, I'm not going to tell jokes. I'm going to tell stories. And if you're organically funny, you know what I'm saying? Then it's going to come out. You just have to be confident in your style. It's something we talked about yesterday when we were chopping it up. It's like, some of my best sets has been storytelling and just being comfortable. And not everything is a laugh out loud. Not everything is LOL when it comes to comedy. That's one thing I think that's one of the most monumental things when you're going to understand about comedy and humor. There's a difference between comedy and humor. You know what I'm saying? Like humor is an actual feeling, you know what I'm saying? That you can ignite in someone. And there is a science of laughing inside that is just as powerful as laughing out loud. Like there's some comedians that get up there, their stuff be so funny. The only thing I do is be like, damn, that's good. That's
right.
That's real good. And then later on, I might, chuckle and be like,
right.
My face be like, damn, that's good. That's real good. But what I think what has happened, this is the point I'm trying to make. I think the culture of stand-up comedy, especially the open mics, has created this culture of like, you got to get as many off in 5 minutes.
Right.
That red light. And 5 minutes is not always enough time to tell a really good, funny story. You know what? I don't know if you do this. If I'm going to an open mic, like say I'm going to Nate Jackson Super Funny on Tuesdays at 7:00, but you got to be there like at 6 to sign up. See, I'm shouting out my brother, man. I'm shouting out my brother, man. Go there and if you want to open mic, you want to get some time in and put in some work. 7:00, Nate Jackson Super Funny. You know what I'm saying?
In August, they're not having it in July, but we're good. You're good.
You said what?
They shut it down for July, but yeah, in August.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right. Go in August then, and September, and therefore after. But listen, I don't know if you ever come to this impasse in this crossroads. You're like, I can get off 7 of these one-liners, or I can just tell one really good story for my 5 minutes. I come to that impasse almost every single time, and I'm like, I guess I'm just going to try to get off these 5 to 7 one-liners. You know what I'm saying? And I always wanted, like, it's like, man, just one of these days, get up there and just tell a story, and the punchlines are just going to be interwoven in there. But you got to have that confidence to do that.
You do, though. You do. I think you got to be okay with the silence with that, because I feel like you said, what we're so used to is following the culture and the trend of whatever's, hot, right? And that's a good question out there. So, you can be getting the numbers, right? Let's say you're getting the numbers, you can be blowing up on TikTok. We talked about this yesterday, remember? Mm-hmm. But is that equal success to you, and that's a good one. Do you choose the 7 one-liners because you're getting a response, or do you work out that story and stay true to yourself?
Right. Yeah. Social media. Go ahead.
No, we got to redefine, I think, what success and creativity is, because I feel like, we would let so many different people, and this from an individual standpoint too. I feel like, you would have never came up with the griot experience if you let people tell you, "Oh man, what you doing?" Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But you were like, "I'm gonna run with this and let it build over the years." You know what I mean? And I feel like it takes courage to stand in that space, and you have to literally stand by yourself for a while, and then people will jump on the bandwagon later. But I feel like you'll end up, because I've almost been like, man, let me go ahead and should I be doing what everyone else is doing? But I feel like, are you gonna find peace and not being true to yourself?
Yeah.
And that's not what's really inside of you.
Yeah, because I've done a one-person show before, mm-hmm. and it included me doing my poetry, my hip hop, and then it was a lot of storytelling. And I just remember this one joke that I have that is a story, and I was actually able. It just felt so good just to get it off, and it was so well received in my one-person show. It was a story about the relationship I had with the first dog that I had, named Freddie. You know what I'm saying? I tell the story, but it was my grandmother's dog, and I talked about how I was like, I saw him interacting with other dogs. I'm like, I think Freddie's homosexual. I think Freddie's gay. I really do. And I just tell the story about that. But my question to you is, when it comes to hip hop and stand-up comedy, it kind of it shares the same intersection in. Would you rather hear a song that is packed full of punchlines, or are you more of a story rap guy? And why?
I think with hip hop, it could be a little, because the delivery is everything, right? I feel like with hip hop too, though.
Right.
But I'm gonna go there around. If you're doing things, if it's the same and you're trying to follow like a wave, I'm good. I feel like, but if you have a story that's very interesting, I'm gonna be like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna catch me a little more in my ear.
Yeah, I think nowadays I'm more of I will probably lean more towards a song that has punchlines. But some of the most memorable songs for me are songs that tell stories, like Immortal Technique, Dance with the Devil. That's probably one of the most powerful story songs. Nas's Rewind, where he's rapping the whole verse, the whole song in reverse. I'm like,
Mhm.
damn, that was powerful.
I like
Or
and then Joyner. I like Joyner. Was it Joyner Lucas or what's the?
yeah, he had Joyner Lucas has made a career off of those catchy like stories. Like I
Yeah,
know
yeah. I like the way he. Yeah,
I like the one he did with Will,
yeah.
part one without Will on there. And then on the part two, on the remix, he had Will on there. And whew, Will killed that, bro. His
Oh yeah,
verse
yeah. Oh yeah,
nasty on that. I'm like, damn, the dude still got it. He's
yeah,
nasty. And that's Will Smith. That's not the Fresh Prince. That was Will Smith rapping. I was like,
yeah.
there's a difference.
Right.
But I also remember Lauryn Hill and Common and Lauryn Hill's song Retrospect for Life, talking about it was a letter to the child that, you know what I'm saying, that he contributed to the abortion of, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
That's, so I think now, you know what I'm saying, to have a kind of like a slick, twisted answer to that, I prefer a really good story rap, but it's got to have the punchlines in there too. You know what I'm saying? It's got to,
Yeah. No.
I probably was, I don't know what it is about my palette these days. My hip hop palette is kind of like, if you're telling a story, it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying?
Really.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
For agree.
Maybe it's because I think I've heard it all before. Maybe that's what it is.
Who's your favorite MC storyteller?
That's a good question. Man, it's got to be up there between Nas and Ice Cube. Biggie's up there. You know what? I don't go for the traditional Slick Rick response. I don't do that.
You know what? Someone actually said that Biggie was better than Ice Cube when it came to storytelling, which is pretty.
I saw that, and that's a really good debate.
I would say better. I think they both. I think that's the beauty of hip hop.
Yeah, I think it comes down to preference when it comes to that. Because
I would say one's better. I love both, but yeah.
When you look at
different eras, right? So I mean, really,
when you look at Ice Cube in his prime, bro, those story raps that he was kicking were phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they are staples. Today was a good day. You know what I'm saying? That's like a staple song. So, but then Biggie got Juicy, Biggie got the what's the one joint?
I got a story to tell.
I got a story to tell. That joint was dope. You're talking about how he was up in the which is, he says it's a true story. He was having sexual relations with a member of the New York Knicks wife, you know what I'm saying, at the time. So no, Biggie got some stuff, man. Like he got some stuff. Excuse my language, Me and My Bitch. That like that first album, he had some story raps on there, Me and My Bitch. And then the second album, Life After Death, he had a whole bunch of he was committing suicide or contemplating suicide. No, he actually committed suicide at the end of that song. He has some joints, man. Like it's just tough. I think it comes down to preference. And I think that when it comes down to preference, I think I'm going to probably choose. I'm probably going to choose Ice Cube because I feel like Ice Cube has the best and the greatest hip hop album ever. So, in Death Certificate. So, that's a debate I get into with people all the time. I just think Death Certificate, when it took you from, the person who died, in like kind of like engaged in some street stuff. He was doing criminal activities, and then the second part of the album was the rebirth, and he was enlightened and he was righteous, civilized, and educated. I thought that was so dope, and how all the songs just made sense. Like it was dope, and especially the song. One of the sleeper songs is when he talks about I think it's called Summer Vacation, when he talks about going to like the Midwest and different, states to sell drugs. And oh man, it was man, that album is powerful, bro.
Hmm.
What you think when it comes to story raps? Like, what's your pick?
You know, I like Mos Def. I think Mos Def is a
He's a bad man.
he is let's see.
And he's also funny too. I think
Yeah.
Mos Def could do comedy. I think Mos Def could do stand-up.
He has humor. He's funny. He's a funny guy.
Yeah. He always sounds like he's drunk.
I would say exactly right. I would say I like Ice Cube though too. Ice Cube.
Yeah.
I think he was a ghetto storyteller back in the day, right? I mean,
yeah.
When it came to, but I also appreciate the Slick Ricks. You know what I mean? And like you said, none of us would be remiss to not parents should understand all that other stuff back in the day was Will Smith's specialty, right? So I mean, I think,
and we got to give it up. We got to give it up to M. M has one of the.
Oh yeah, M too, absolutely, yeah.
Eminem with Stan. I mean, like that term is a staple now. You got a whole bunch of stands. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
I thought M gets busy when it comes to story rap. You know what I'm saying? But I think that if you look at the history of stand-up comedians, do you like all the stand-up comedians who never were rappers? Who do you think could have done it? Who do you think, like, when we look at like the history of really good stand-up comedians, like who could have been a really good rapper?
Wow.
That wasn't though. Yeah, I mean, you can't choose someone who was. I mean, I don't think there's many out there.
Let's see. He was there's a lot of them that were there, also too, but can't really think of anyone. Like, I'm trying to think of no one really comes to mind like right at the moment as far as
I know we got to think about that. That's a tough one. If y'all are out there, y'all listening to this, think about a stand-up comedian that would have been a really good rapper.
Maybe Martin.
You think Martin would have been a good rapper?
Yeah, I mean, because he was so edgy, you know what I mean, and he was so aware of he was aware too, of the time back then when he was in his prime, but
You know what the problem with that question I asked? The reason why I asked that question is every single comedian that comes to mind, I would if I were to hear them in my mind over a beat, they would probably sound so stiff to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, for instance, I immediately thought of Chris Rock. I'm like, Chris Rock would have been a good rapper.
Yeah, actually, he would have been. Yeah, I think so.
And I'm like, but his voice would have been too stiff, you know. But yeah, I mean, that's my. I mean, because he did do CB4, he was.
Chris. Without Chris, then that old miss.
But you know what? You know who I'm really proud of, man? I'm really proud of those brothers from 95 South, man.
Yeah.
Those, hey man, I don't know what you think, man. Those, they could be rappers. They be getting busy.
Actually, DC and Fly has an album out. I
don't know if I ever listened to it. I might. I've
heard of it. I've heard it.
Okay.
I think nowadays it's not that hard for people to translate because just because of the time we live in, right? They can get on their computers, create a beat or buy a beat or whatever.
Right.
Remember back in the day, you had to actually create that joint. You know what I mean? It wasn't like you got an instrumental out of thin air outside of, record 12 inches. But yeah, no, I haven't watched that. I gotta check out their Netflix. I haven't seen
man, it's so good, man. It's so good. I love the improv. You can tell some of it is scripted, but that's okay. But they got a live band, they got a DJ, they're doing it reminds me of the Griot Party experience. It really does. I was like, this is dope. This is so dope. And I was really proud of myself that I created something and brought it to Seattle that has that same flavor that you would have to normally go to Atlanta, because I heard they get busy like that all the time down in Atlanta. They do stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because that's how they really got, big, was doing stuff like that. So I was really impressed by them. Whatever happened to the two brothers that were kind of good? Damn, I forget dudes' names. Asking them questions, asking all those questions, assuming. You don't remember that?
Mm-mm.
Oh my goodness. What was the dude's name? I forget dude's name. Him and his partner was doing this whole thing. Look it up, man. It's really good. It went viral. It's probably up to like 10 million views now.
Check it out.
Yeah, man, these guys were good, man. If you know who it is, man, put the name in the comments right now, because their names are escaping me right now. I guess I could look it up on my computer. I could cheat and look it up on my iPad. But they were really good, man. When we talk about that. So just to wrap it up, man, we're gonna have a part 2, because I know you said you want to talk about the 50th year in hip hop and what's going on with that. But if you had any, if we were to talk about like a plan of action or something, or any kind of homework for the listeners when it comes to hip hop and stand-up comedians, if you had any plan of actions or any homeworks for anybody who wanted to create an intersection between hip hop and stand-up comedy, what would be your plan of action? What would you say?
I would say, if you really love your art form, go ahead and do a little due diligence around the history of it. Like, where was it created? You know what I mean? I was talking to someone yesterday, and I have a couple books on the history of Black comedy, right? African American comedy, whatever your PC is. And it's interesting how many people aren't aware of their history. And for me, it's important because I'm mixed, but I grew up with Def Jam. I grew up, Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor. So the basic books are going to give me, Robin Williams, and go back into a certain level of history and comedy, but they're not going to give me, the real history I'm looking for. So whether it's hip hop or whether it's like comedy, understand why and then who paved the way for you too. I feel like it gives you a different kind of depth. So you ain't gotta get super deep, but it could be grabbing a book. It could be just getting online and Googling your favorite, comedian and their, who inspired them.
Right. I wanted to say real quick, I looked it up. It's Spoken Reasons, and his partner,
Okay.
I forget what his partner's name was. I'm looking it up right now. Who did that? Oh, Emmanuel Hudson. That's who it is. Spoken Reasons and Emmanuel Hudson. I mean, it's got millions of views. It came out in 2012. But my plan of action and homework would be and you see this a lot. If you are a hip hop artist and you're coming out with an album, put some comedians or some comedy in your interlude. That works so well. Let me tell you the reason why it works so well. It's because the hip hop artists and the hip hop albums that they created that are classics that I really remember in the forefront of my mind, they have comedic interludes. When I think of the Fugees, the score, those interludes, go listen to that album. People out there, they were comedic, really funny. You know what I'm saying? Wyclef playing the Asian store owner, and he coming there and they're doing whatever. And so our Ice Cube's album, like I said, Death Certificate, there are some interludes, before the songs, that are pretty funny. They're pretty funny. You know what I mean? Like when he goes, rings a doorbell of the girl that he's trying to sexually conquest, and her dad answers the door, and then they have this this exchange, and then it goes into the song, which is a pretty demeaning song, by the way. But anyways, or even the beginning to one of the songs, I think it's Uncle Sam, I Want to Kill Sam. it's serious and it's twisted comedy, right? But it's still funny. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, man. Like
No, I think
that's why I appreciate that album so much. Is because of interlude. So if you're a rapper
yeah.
or you're a producer, put some comedic, stuff in there.
But I think we're saying the same thing on that end though. It's like go appreciate, what was built. And why what made it great, you know what I mean? And so
Yeah, actually, yeah.
yeah.
And I think that if you're a comedian, here's my advice for you in your plan of action with some homework. If you're a comedian, do your jokes, put some music behind it. It changes things.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. You know what they call that back in the day? They call those comedy albums.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, you used to get a comedy album, and some of them, they wouldn't just have a laugh track or a live audience laughing. They had music behind them.
Mm-hmm.
We used to really buy comedy albums back in the day. Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby. I'm trying to think of other comedy albums I used to play back in the day. But anyways, like people came out with, I think actually, Chris Rock had a comedy album. And then like during the interludes, I think he did have some music playing behind it. Because that was one that I used to listen to a lot. That's when he had the famous joke, niggas versus black folks. So, but anyways, that will be my plan of action, my homework for comedians, man. Put some music, man. Put some tracks behind it. Because they're, and understand and study. Your homework is understand and study that intersection between stand-up comedy and hip-hop. And you will be a better MC or hip-hop artist once you understand how much, comedy is a part of it, and you'll be a better comedian once you know how much hip-hop is a part of your art form medium. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man. Yeah. I'm excited, man, for us, man, to work together, man. We got to get together. We got to do some skits together. I would love to
man.
You or just sit down and brainstorm. We're both writers. I would love to have a writing session. Me and you are about to go to that master class tomorrow on Saturday.
Yes.
Learning about, the art of comedy. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be out in Tacoma. So check that out. So man, it's always been a pleasure, man. Speaking with you, man. We got some stuff that we need to do, man. So we got to sit down and brainstorm and make history.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to go see the Fantasy A, get some Mattress and see.
Yes.
Wait, this guy.
This guy. If you want to see this guy.
That guy over there.
Yeah, if you want to see this guy over here. Okay, yeah. Yeah.
It's going down. This guy here is.
Yeah, it's at the Beacon Cinema right now, right?
Yeah.
It's
so you got it. Most of the shows are sold out, I think, going into I think the end of the month. I think. Let's see. But go to the website at the Beacon and check it out. Maybe you'll see Mixel out there. Who knows? I mean,
you might. I think that he should link up with all. Since he is a hip hopper himself, I think that Fantasy A, and I'm gonna be interviewing them on Sunday for the show. But I think he should be trying to hook up with all the Seattle hip hop artists from Macklemore.
With media stuff like that, they tend to work that out. I bet you they'll probably have a coverage of when Mixalad goes. You know what I mean? Because they put the call out there like that. So it'll be interesting to see if he responds. So. I know he's a cool dude, but it's probably a matter of does he have the time? And so we'll see.
What I like about it is the cast and like for instance, Aaron Billingsley, like he is so talented. He plays Xander in the movie, and then you got you. Me. We have and then who else is in the movie? We forgot to talk about, man. Reddy Ron is in the movie. Reddy Ron.
Reddy Ron,
man. That's my guy, man. That's my guy.
My kung fu stronger than your kung fu.
Yeah, exactly. Reddy Ron,
I beat him.
Yeah, Reddy Ron is, he's been in hip hop news, based on his relationship with DMX and whatnot. I've been wanting to get him on the show too, so he could, tell his story about his relationship with DMX and whatnot. I'm not going to go into it too much here. Just, for the privacy part, I want him to tell the story. But the point I'm trying to make is that movie has planted the seed for us to get together as Black collective and as artists to put out something ourselves too. You know what I'm saying? So it brought us together. So shout out to David and Noah for putting all this talent together, for recruiting us and putting us together, and so that we can create some stuff, man. So yeah, man, I'm just really excited, man. And so go out and see.
And now we was from this day forth, we will talk with the British accent.
No, we're not doing that. I don't know why you keep saying that.
It cracks me up because you watch was it is it All Star? It's no. What's the one? Is it All Star? All American? All American. Is it the one with
yeah.
And what's that? The lead guy. The lead is he's British, but he's like hood. Oh, so he has a hood.
Well, the best. The best of that is
he's like Idris. Yeah,
yeah, that guy, man, that dude on Snowfall. He's a cold piece, man.
And they be like, "Yo, man," and they be like, "I just want some tea. I just want tea." So next week, I'll be like, "Hi, my name is Chris, and this is Logic."
No, I'm not going to answer that.
Sowing the seed with tea.
No, stop. That's a terrible accent. Don't do that. Stop appropriating British accent.
I like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh man!
All right, let me get out of here. All right,
we gotta have a whole show, man. When we talk about like top 5 sick. Whoa, what's going on over here? top 5 top 5 top 5 sitcoms, top 5 stand-up comedians, top 5 comedy movies. Yeah. What did we do? Are you doing a little
little pop like it?
Yeah, what's happening? What's happening? Yeah. All right, man. Hey, Chris, it's been great, man. Check out Fantasy A, get some Mattress. It's at the Beacon Cinema. It's going to be showing at the Issaquah Film Festival tomorrow. So check it out. All right, we out. See you.